telling me off camera a story, and I was like, I gotta do this bonus real quick story. Can you just real quickly tell me? You said you got investigated on your first.
Yeah, it was in 1968. We have our ships all set up for what's called scrambles. All the pilot has to do is hit the battery switch, pull the trigger, and we're cranking. We can actually break ground in less than a minute. But anyway, we went out one morning, and my machine gun was gone, my gunners was gone, and our rifles were gone. And so I turned it all in, our guns are gone. Well, what'd you do with the guns? They were there last night. So we don't know what happened. They issued me new guns, and now the investigation of where'd the guns go. And about 2 weeks after that, we was on a mission, and 5 of our birds got shot out of the sky. And we had ground troops, and we captured the machine gun nest that shot them out. And sure enough, it was my 60 that shot them down. And it was being fired by probably one of the most beautiful females I've ever seen in my life. She was a French Vietnamese type, and she was a bad guy, but she was a dead shot.
Wow.
And so they kept investigating. I'm automatically the bad guy because of my gun.
Yeah.
But they found out that the avionics guys was stealing the guns. They had a bill of false oil in their shop, and they were selling the guns on the black market.
Wow.
And so I'm glad they found it because I'd have probably been in a prison.
Wow.
But anyway, and I never seen the avionics guys no more after that, so I don't know what happened to them. But I'm sure the Army took care of them.
Incredible story that I just thought, man, we had to get that captured on video. So thanks for sharing that quick story. All right, well, you've brought some pictures with you and from Vietnam, and I'd like to just talk through some of these pictures. The first one is this helicopter with a Viking on it. Could you talk through, like, what is this Viking? He's got a bunch of ammo on it, and he's got some guns. Pretty cool picture. I'm a Vikings fan, a football Vikings fan, but could you just talk through what's this picture?
That's a B model Huey gunship, and nose door cover is it's actually a picture of Yosemite Sam.
Okay.
Mr. Disney sent us a copy of it,
That's
so
cool.
we put on a blue diamond background and put Yosemite Sam on there. And I had painted "Till Death Do Us Part" on the doors of the helicopter. And I wasn't thinking about me dying; I was thinking about my helicopter.
So this was your first helicopter that you were on, correct?
On a gunship.
On a gunship.
On the gunship, yeah.
And I'm assuming that you really loved this helicopter. If you didn't want it to die, you weren't worried about yourself. You were worried about your helicopter.
Yeah.
You said that this had a special name. What was the name of this helicopter?
We got the bad guys give us a name. We wore it on our berets. It's called the Blue Diamond Devils of the Delta, because when we come at them, they couldn't see the figure. All they could see is the blue diamond. So that's what they called us, Blue Diamond Devils of the
And you
Devil.
painted this American flag on there?
I had hired it done.
You had it hired done, okay.
Yeah.
And what was the motto that you had up on?
Till death do us part.
Till death do us part. And that's to the bird, right?
Yeah. Well, one of us was going to.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's a great picture, great visual. Now here's another picture of. Now this is the bird that you were on, correct?
Yeah, I was on a bird that.
Could you explain some of this picture right here? There's a huge gun there.
That's a mini gun, and those are rockets, and the white sticking out is proximity warheads on them, which means that the rocket will explode before it actually impacts, about 6 to 8 feet. You can set them.
Okay. Now this isn't the gun that you operated, correct?
No, the pilot operates that gun.
The pilot operates both of these, correct?
Yes, and they can. It can shoot. Now, the minigun is operated by the co-pilot, and the rocket's by the pilot.
Okay.
And the minigun, you can around 4,000 rounds a minute, but it can shoot faster than that if you need to. The pilot can dial in how many rounds.
That is incredible. Now, this is the minigun right here?
Yeah, they're both miniguns. That's just the other side of the helicopter.
That's the other side. Okay.
That's the gunner side.
Okay, gotcha. Now this isn't the gun you would operate either. This would be operated by
the pilot.
The pilot. Okay.
Pilot,
gotcha.
co-pilot. Yeah.
Now, what kind of relationship did you have with the pilot and the co-pilot pretty good relationship?
Yes, very good.
Okay,
Yes,
very good.
very good.
So you need to have a good relationship with those
Yeah,
guys. Y'all have to
it was
have
good.
trust.
Yep.
I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
Here's another picture of now. What gun was this?
That's the same thing.
Same thing,
But
okay.
the only thing is, it has regular warheads in the
Okay.
in the rocket pods.
Gotcha. Pretty cool. Now this picture is really interesting to me because you have a bunch of ammo in there. There's this pole going up in there. Could you talk through because this is where you would sit inside
Yeah.
of this.
Here's the crew chief seat, and on the other side was the gunner's seat. These right here in the middle are the M60s that we fired with our hands. These across the back are smoke grenades.
Okay.
What we use to mark a target if we receive fire. These down here, these cans are smoke cans where you could drop and pull it and drop it out by a tree line and smoke a tree line. This tray coming out of here it's the belt-fed ammo going to the minigun.
Okay.
These boxes in the bottom are the 200-round boxes that we actually put in our 60s that we fired by hand. And this pole is very important. When you stepped out of the door of the helicopter, you hooked your toe on that pole and kept it from falling out, even though you were tied on with a monkey strap, to shoot underneath the helicopter or to put fire where the bad guys were. And also, if you were locked on a target and was shooting and the pilot turned into you, when you come around, your gun would hit that pole and you wouldn't go inside and shoot your pilot.
So that pole was actually really, really important.
To me, it was.
Now, were you ever on a bird where that pole wasn't on the bird?
Oh, yeah. During Tet of 68, we lost a lot of birds and we come up short poles. And I went on one mission without it, and the pilot was on the rocket run, and I come out the door to shoot, and I hooked my toe, and there was no pole. I fell first out the door in front of the rocket pods, and my monkey strap held me. Couldn't talk to the pilot because the mic cord unplugged. I had to crawl back up my monkey strap, and just as I got clear of it, he fired another pair of rockets. He would have shot me and wouldn't even know it, So from then on, I never, ever flew without that pole.
Now, was this pole installed prior to Vietnam, or was this a pole?
It's part of the standard equipment.
is?
It's called.
Okay.
It's actually the proper name for it is litter pole.
Okay. About this stuff, because there's things that you would never know unless you talk to a veteran and you hear their stories. That's a lot of ammo in that picture as well. But you said that pole is extremely important.
To me, it's very important. After I made that one mission without the pole, I never flew again without. Always had to have it.
That's cool. We got another picture here, and this is, I'm assuming you will tell me about this picture.
That's an XM16 system. Instead of miniguns, it's got two M60s out there.
Okay.
M60 fires 550, 650 rounds a minute. And on those, if you're flying along and one of them breaks, quits shooting, while he's flying, you got to crawl out there and disassemble the gun and fix it and put it back together so he can have it back to shoot while he's flying. So it gets a little interesting to crawl out there on that rocket pod
I'm sure it does.
while he's flying. But those were all replaced by miniguns. But originally, that's what we had.
You have another picture here. This is an interesting picture because I'm not sure what he's looking at, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at.
This is a tail rotor on the helicopter.
So that's on the back end of the helicopter.
Yeah, it's a tail rotor blade, and when you sit in the crew chief seat and you're shooting, all the brass and links go out to the front, and the wind blows them and they go down on the ground and stuff. It is extremely rare for one of them the brass to go back and hit that blade, but it did on that one. It stuck straight in the. That's the gunner back there looking at.
And you took a picture of this.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy.
Yep.
And then you have a picture here of just a hut out.
Yeah, that's a rice paddy with a hooch out there, and somebody lives in there. I just wanted to show what it looks like.
Now, do you know how many total hours on a bird that you had in your 32 months in Vietnam? Do you have any estimate?
I flew about 3,000 hours.
3,000 hours. Man.
And
that's wild.
during Tet of 68, on the same helicopter, I flew it 300 hours in a 30-day period.
Wow.
Which is extreme because you got every 100 hours you got to take it apart inspect it and go through a PE at that time, what they called them. And did mine 3 times in 30 days, which is a pretty good record.
Wow, that's wild. Here's another picture of another.
That's just a close-up of a
Close
hoot
up,
so you can
yeah.
see what they looked like.
Yeah. Did you ever get to go inside of these?
I never went in the side of it. It made me think of one time they were trying to destroy some hooches. They made rocket runs. They shot 2 rockets. 2 different runs they made, and they couldn't hit them. I had a log chain in there, and I threw a log chain out, and I took out 3 hooches with my log chain.
Now, what is a log chain exactly?
It's a log chain. Like,
Oh, it's just a regular log chain. And
regular.
you just took out the whole. I thought a log chain was
No.
something that.
No, it's just a
regular log chain.
Regular log
That's
chain. I
funny.
had one on, and
it took out all of them.
I took out 3
3
hooches.
of them.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Because when
wild.
you whip it out, it goes just
Yeah.
like a sign. It took out 3 hooches.
Man, I was thinking a log chain was a military term that
No,
I'd
no.
never heard of.
No.
But no, it really was a log chain.
It really was a log chain.
It's funny. This is a picture, I'm assuming on a heliport here.
Yeah, it's on the airfield, and it was one of the helicopters burned up. It happens. Normally, it happens when the bad guys blow up the ammo dump or something, but they do catch on fire.
Now, what were most of your when you're engaging in the enemy? Was it in comparison to day and night? Was it more night conflict engagement, or about the same? How tell me how that was.
In the
Do you remember?
in the daytime, normally we hauled a lot of Arvins down. I was in 4th Corps down in the Delta, and we haul them all out in the daytime, insert them in the morning. We'd haul several thousand out.
And what is that exactly that you're hauling?
Arvins, Republic Vietnam soldiers.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we had to pick them up and haul them back because they wouldn't survive the night out in the jungle by themselves. When we got involved with the nighttime, we had another Huey. We called it our light ship. It had a Xeon light on it, a 50 cal on it, a smoke tank, or a fog oil tank, a pair of 60s out one door, and a hand cranked M79 grenade launcher we got from the riverines, the PT boats. And so we'd fly it low and slow at nighttime, turn the light on, and somebody always shot at us.
Wow.
And because we were making a target, but we had a light fire team flying blackout, and whenever we got shot at, they go in and wipe out the area. So there was some action at nighttime too.
Wow. Here's another picture of an aircraft. I'm assuming this one crashed or was hit.
Crashed or shot down. It was probably shot down, and then they hauled it back, and that's the pieces of it.
Did
But
y'all take pieces from this, or was
if
it
if
used?
if we could salvage anything from it to use on something else, we would.
Okay. And then here's a picture of you with your children.
Yeah, we come back. Remember, I got married in 1968, right?
Yeah.
August of 1968. And then that deployment he just had there was with my 2 kids was my last deployment when I was leaving to go back in Vietnam in 1971. And it was the hardest deployment because I had a wife and 2 kids now.
Yeah.
So that was really, really tough one there. And they're very young. They're like 1 and 2 years old.
Yeah. So this was your first deployment with kids.
Yes, with my, yeah.
Because there are other 2 deployments.
Yep.
You did 18 months. You did 12 months with a 30-day break, and then another 6 months.
Yeah.
Then you came back home.
I came back I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia Fort Stewart, Georgia, I think I was there 16 or 17 months.
Okay.
And then went back to Fort Eustis, Virginia, to TI school, and then went back to
Back to
Vietnam as a TI. Yep.
Okay. And then you got this other picture here. This is
That's the picture in the middle. I'm on the left in the Army uniform. That's my daddy in the Navy uniform, and that's a cousin I have that's in the Air Force uniform.
Gotcha.
My daddy still fits in his World War II uniform.
Wow.
Well, he doesn't anymore. He's passed away now. But
Sure. So what your father was a World War II veteran,
yes.
and did you have any American relatives that were engaged in conflicts prior to World War II?
My grandfather was in World War One. He was a
Okay.
veteran. He was a medic in World War One.
Wow. So you have 3 generations that were in World War One, World War Two, and then Vietnam.
Yes.
Anybody who was in Korea?
His second younger brother was in Korea also.
Wow, that is fascinating. What year was this picture taken?
I took that picture in 1986, probably.
86. So this was towards the tail end of your career?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I retired in August 1989.
Wow. Did you correspond a lot with your parents when you were in Vietnam?
Not so much.
Okay.
I did a little, but not so much. I didn't. Probably the one I corresponded with mostly was Judy,
Okay.
but mostly I was too busy to correspond very much.
Right.
I didn't write very many letters.
Right. So your correspondence was mainly with your wife or your girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
and then you didn't really correspond a lot because of the fact that you were really, really busy.
Yeah.
And is that part of the reason why it felt like time went by fast?
Yeah, I think so. Because it seemed like I just got there and hadn't even hardly unpacked my bags, and it was time to go. The whole year was already done.
Wow.
I got there in September of '67, went through Tet and everything, and Tet was real busy.
Yeah.
It was real busy.
What was going through your mind? Did when you deployed that last time, you said you had your kids.
Yeah.
How many months were you going on that deployment?
Let's
Do you
see.
remember? It's 71, so 70.
71, 72. I came back in 72. I was gone, let me see, 10, I think it was 8 or 10. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Was your mindset going into that like completely different than the other 2 deployments?
Oh, yeah. It was way harder because now I got something to lose. Before it was just me.
Right.
But now I got something to lose, and it was really hard.
So because I want to kind of get in I ask a lot of veterans that engage in conflict, that are engaging the enemy. Was your thought process when you were engaging the enemy on that last deployment, were you thinking about your kids when you're on the bird more so, or what's your mindset going into battle? Are you solely focused on the task at hand because it's life and death?
Yeah, and part of it is things had changed between 69 and 71. Things changed a lot
In the war.
But I still focused on my job, but things had changed so much. When somebody shot at me from the ground and I could see him, before I would just shoot him. Mm-hmm. And now they said, well, I call fire, receiving fire at 9 o'clock. I see him down there, you can see him shooting. Oh, that's friendly fire. What do you mean friendly fire? He's shooting at me and I shoot him, you know? So that was a big change. The other part of it is I'm really worried about getting in situations where I might not come home. Mm-hmm. Before I never worried about that, but I am now because I got my kids and stuff home.
Right.
One thing I wanted to say about that, my wife, bless her heart, she was fantastic. When I did get home after my tour, I went to the house, and when I opened the kids' bedroom door, she had made a full door size poster of me so that they would know what I looked like.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That she thought of that.
Yeah, because they were so little when I left, but she had them. They knew who I was when I got home.
Wow.
But it's due to her. She was the rock that carried me through all this. She really, truly was. She did things that, in all my deployments and all the stuff, she was there, the rock. She took care of the family. She took care of the kids. She did it all. So, yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah,
And
still
again,
is.
52 years.
52 years, yes.
And
And just think, in December, my son will be 50.
wow. Man, that's awesome. So you come back from that third deployment, and I know we've had some, over the last couple of years with engagements in Iraq and Afghanistan, where U.S. servicemen have, if we go all the way back to Desert Storm or Desert Shield, veterans now get a lot more recognition. A lot of veterans, when I see a veteran, I typically try to go out of my way to thank them, but you come home not really to the same reception at that time in America. And so can you tell me just briefly how you process through coming back home as a soldier, not necessarily celebrated, and now you're living through a time period where veterans are celebrated. So how did you process through that?
When we came back, before I went to Vietnam, I was in a uniform. Like we went to the drive-in, they let me in free, right?
Yeah.
And when I came back from Vietnam, you didn't want to be seen in your uniform. In California, they were crowds that were, what's the word? The nice word was extremely rude to the soldiers. They called them names, they spit on them, they did all this and that, and so on and so forth.
Did you ever get spit on?
I never did get spit on. I probably, at that time, my mind frame would have not tolerated me standing that. I would have probably lost my cool.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so, but yeah, it wasn't a good time. And then I think when they came back victorious with their war at Desert Storm, we went to Iraq and came back, and I got the feeling that they were celebrated, but they were invincible. That was the feeling that I got from the attitude of the soldiers and the people around them. And that's probably not true. It's just the attitude that I got, the feeling that I got. Because they were victorious, everybody saying, yeah, it's all good. And they were, and it was good. But then along with that comes the feeling that we can do no wrong. See, and I got that, I suppose, from the way they drive on Fort Campbell Boulevard and all these other places.
Yeah. Was there ever any resentment towards those other veterans, or did you ever have any bitterness?
No.
No. Okay.
I only had one, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I never ever went to any of these veterans associations. I had one down here at the Armory, right there, and they were not organized at all. We'd been in there. And we'd signed in, and we'd been waiting for an hour to get in the line to go, my wife and I. And there was I don't know what to call him. I called him a great big loudmouth. He come in there raising Sam and cutting the line and everything, and I lost my cool. I went down there and I told him, I says, you can have my ticket. I've been here an hour, you just walked in the door. But if you ever talk like that again, I'm gonna kill you where you stand. And my wife and I left, and we've never been back no more. So I lost it there. I shouldn't have never said that. But the guy was he's the only one. I've run across veterans all over the place that it's all good. I mean,
yeah.
And they've earned the right. And another thing that's real important is you can't have somebody going out shooting without having somebody support them. I've seen some stuff on Facebook and stuff about people say, well, they weren't shooters. Well, the shooters can't do nothing without them. You got to work together as a team. That's how it goes. Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about, you get out of the Army, you're 22 and a half years, but how many different duty stations, where did you all move? I know you spent some time in Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Where all were you stationed at?
I was stationed for basic training Fort Bliss, Texas, AIT at Fort Eustis, Virginia, Vietnam, Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Okay.
That was the worst place I ever was. I'd rather been in Vietnam than Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Then back to Vietnam again, and then to Fort Riley, Kansas.
Okay.
6.5 years at Fort Riley, Kansas.
Wow.
I went to Fort Eustis for more training while I was there. Then I went from there to Fort Richardson, Alaska, 4.5 years. So figured up that's 11 years of Army career right there.
Right.
And then my last 6 years is Fort Campbell, Kentucky here.
Yeah. Now, at what point did you decide I'm going to go ahead and make this a career?
I was ready to get out. I had 9 years in and I was ready to go do something else. But my son had sliced his right eye with a fish stringer. And I knew there was no way I could do the medical. So Army doctors were working on him, so I signed a re-enlistment for 6 years so I couldn't get out. So I could take that. So by then I had too much time.
Okay.
I couldn't afford to not go ahead and finish.
Right.
I got all the stripes, E1 through E8. And then while I was at Fort Richardson, Alaska, I decided to apply for a commission to warrant officer, and I was successful. And then I got a 30-day, came back here, I had to go to school. They sent me to Fort Carson, Colorado. I was there 30 days, and then they sent me on to Fort Campbell.
Wow.
And went back to Fort Eustis to AMOC school, and back to Fort Campbell and finished my career there.
So you retired as a
CW2.
CW2. Wow.
Yeah, as a maintenance tech on helicopters.
Wow.
And that basically that job is if you have a problem that they can't solve, they call you to fix it.
Wow. So you get out of the Army. What do you do after you get out of the Army? You're stationed here at Fort Campbell. Obviously, you're sitting here with me, so you're still in this area. But what did you do when you got out? What did you just take a little break, or did you go back straight to work?
I got out, and trying to find a job is really, really hard. And so I went to school to be a tax expert down here, but I didn't do that. I learned taxes for myself, actually. Then I went to work for Dover Products. I worked there 2 weeks, and then I quit because it was not safe. They had all the chemicals all over, and they weren't labeled, and they wouldn't label them, so I told them I'm not going to be around the chemicals. I had applied at the TVA, and I got accepted for the training program there at TVA. And I started the class as an AEO, as an assistant unit operator. I got into class, I was there three months, and I lost my left leg.
Lost your left leg.
Lost my left leg.
When you say lost your left leg, that means it's no longer there.
Yeah, they cut it off below the knee.
Now
That was in 1991.
1991, you lose your left leg, and so you are working at TVA.
Yeah.
What caused you to lose that leg?
I had a blockage in the aortic artery under the heart. It went down my left leg and blocked up the arteries, and they wasn't able to fix it. I got dry gangrene in my foot. VA says no, but while I was in Vietnam, I ate C rations 3 times a day for 18 months, and I think that's what caused it. When I retired from the Army, my triglycerides were 1,110, and my cholesterol was 393. So that's what I think it is, but the VA said no, it isn't. So, and then they said, you lost your leg 18 months after you retired, so you're no longer under warranty. If it was 12 months, we'd have took credit for it. That's what I was told.
Wow. So now you're having to process through what are you going to do next in life with one leg?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's going through your mind? I mean, you've survived Vietnam 3 tours, 32 months. You retire from 22 and a half years of the military, and now you have one leg.
I figured I'd just get fired when I got out of the hospital, but I didn't. They had, evidently there's a rule, they couldn't fire me on account of that. So they put me in the tool room. I worked in the tool room till I was physically able to walk and maneuver. And they put me back in a training program to be an AEO. And I went on and completed that course. It was a very good course. It's tough. Every Friday you had a test. You failed the test, you got fired. They give you one remedial. That went on for 18 months. And then they had, once you completed the system, they had an oral exam. Somebody been there 20, 30 years, asked you these questions. You had to pass that also.
Wow.
And so I did all that.
With, and you're trying to get used to a prosthetic leg at that time?
Yep, I was.
And so did Vietnam, is your mindset, you're going through this, because I can vaguely remember as a kid, you going through this process and you going through those tests. Did you at all go, well, I've gone through Vietnam, this every week test, I'm going to be just fine because I've already passed so many other life challenges? Or was it a different challenge and a different mindset?
One of the things that happened, like I said before, when we started this, I wasn't a Christian then, right? Mm-hmm. But when I got down here in 1986 and I started going to church, Jesus became my Savior. Mm-hmm. So I had him to lean on, which I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And so I was no longer really worried. He was in charge, and I would go along. It was not an issue. I just had to grin my teeth and move on.
Right.
And that's what I did. And remember I told you I got shot in my right knee, right?
Right.
Well, in 2007, I had to have an artificial knee put in my right knee because it quit working. Wow. So now I got an artificial left leg and an artificial right knee. And the Lord still blessed me because I'm still here working.
Yeah. Well, I want to just thank you so much again for sitting down and telling your story. I know you said that you don't fit the description of this podcast title.
That's
but
true.
I believe that because of your sacrifice, because of your compelling story, you absolutely fit the description of an American hero. And I know that's tough to hear. I've known you for a long time, and you're a very humble guy. But I just really, really believe that your story and what you did in Vietnam, I just want to thank you on the behalf of everybody in my family that lives here in this house, because not only, and again, I know you on a personal level, but not only did you do a great service for our country, but your story of perseverance, you coming back after those 32 months, you're I'm never gonna give up. We didn't get into this too much, but you even learned how to do jewelry as a result of, you were thinking, well, if I have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I'm gonna figure something out to make a living for myself and my family.
Amen. That's true.
And I just think you have an incredible story, and that's why I wanted to sit down and video it and have this on audio. Because I want, if I could have ever sat down with my grandfather, at that time he's a World War II veteran. I didn't have the technology as a kid. He passed away when I was in the 3rd grade. So I never got to sit down with my grandfather and have a conversation about his experience in World War II. Mm-hmm. But as I thought about this, I wanted to sit down with somebody like you. Mm-hmm. And there's other people that I want to sit down and do this with.
Amen.
But you were the first person that came up to my mind that I wanted to sit down and do this with. And I just, again, want to thank you so much for telling these stories, showing these pictures. And again, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
All right. Awesome.